Okay guys, so what we're going to look at with this video is building off of that 3-count flow between the knife and the wrist that we looked at in a prior video. Now these are fairly small joint, and not as small as the finger joints, but these are, I consider the wrist as small joint manipulation. And it's harder to get to those smaller joints because the further you get from out on the limbs, the harder it is to control them. But they are realistic, and you need to be familiar with them, because if you don't know how to manipulate those joints, you're going to miss windows of opportunity. Okay? There are also a lot of times where I may be able to get multiple joints manipulated. Maybe a large joint because I've got control of that arm, and at the same time start manipulating some small joints. So there's a lot of application here, okay? But we're going to kind of focus here on the nuances of this first position. So in the prior video, we looked at how did I get a hold of his wrist. We looked at possibilities here, and we looked at getting a hold of the arm, going big to small is what we call those positions here. So I went from a big position to a small position. Maybe I did a takedown, okay? And in that takedown, I was able to keep control of his arm, okay? And because once the limb is stable, I can start going from big to small joints again, okay? Now from here, this is the position, okay? We talked about that. I want to control the thumb, and the harder I squeeze, the more it breaks his grip. In fact, it gets to a point where if he tries to hold on to that and I really push that out, it's going to damage his thumb, okay? So he's not going to want to try and hold on to that. But let's look at the disarm before we look at the actual manipulation from this point. From here, I'm going to the flat of the blade as I start manipulating the wrist, and it's a scissor motion. I push and I pull. I'm pulling on his hand as I push with the knife. Those two energies need to be combined, otherwise it can fail. Okay, so I pull and I push, and it has to be very tight. Just like a pair of scissors. If the screw's loose on those scissors, it's going to fold the paper, not cut it. I want to keep it really tight so that it really cuts that out of his grip. Okay. And again, if he's really trying to grip onto that and resist it, it's going to actually injure his wrist. His thumb there. So I want to push with the back of the forearm to the flat of the blade as I pull and I push that out. Okay, and I could be using that opportunity to go into another technique. Okay, so that's the disarm portion of that. Again, if we were standing like this and he has his full faculties, I'm not going to attempt this, because if he just pulls that really hard, it may come cutting my hand as he pulls out of my grip. So I want to make sure I do these at the right opportunity. Okay. So now I'm going to look at that. I've got that, and that was what we call a stripping disarm. If this was maybe something that didn't have an edge, I might be looking at actually using my grip to strip that out and can keep control of it. Okay. So maybe it was a screwdriver, right, or something like that, and I don't mind grabbing onto it. Even if it had an edge, I could technically safely push against that and then look at grabbing onto it. But that's, again, you're going to run the risk of cutting yourself. So I can strip it out, or I can push and pull and strip to keep. Okay. Now, say that's out here, and I'm just looking at the wrist now. That same grip, but I'm looking at the wrist manipulation itself. Just right there, okay, again, if you look at the line of his forearm, and I create a V here, if I push on that angle there, that's going to facilitate that takedown, okay? Or that manipulation at least. And even if I'm on the ground here, I may continue that manipulation onto his wrist, okay? Now if he stands up again, okay, we're going to look at that again. Okay, yeah, we'll kind of take the knife out of the picture for a moment. So this is, now I could get two hands on that, okay? And I'm just reinforcing that same position and getting a spiraling motion as we go to the ground, okay? Right here, okay? And that's the manipulation that we're looking at, okay? So now, other ways we can do this. Sometimes we call this a clip. Basically, I'm going to, and I could be preempting this with a strike, bang, and then coming over with my arm and clipping down like this, okay? As I clip, we call that, clip that position there. I'm using my body now to help manipulate that wrist, okay, like that. So if I came here, bang, clip, and down, okay? And that can help to facilitate that particular manipulation, okay? So that there was three variations: a one-handed, two-handed, a clip, okay? Other ways I might be able to do that, and this one kind of gets into multi-joint manipulation, but I might come underneath there, okay? And now from this position, have this hand under, but I'm not just manipulating his wrist now, but I'm actually getting his shoulder, okay? And then from there, get a double joint manipulation as we come through. Okay? So that's 3 variations. There are others. I'm not going to overwhelm too many variations with this particular video, but the more variations you learn, the more familiar you become with manipulating those joints and being able to adapt to positions to be able to kind of find out how the body's supposed to twist or not supposed to twist, and twist it that way to cause pain, okay? Or pain, breakage, destruction, depending on what your goals are, right? So give that one a try.